Want to uplift that old coffee table? Keep watching. Hello everyone and welcome to Make with Ajay. I'm Ajay and this video is a really special one for me. I always wanted to uplift and design my own furniture, and I thought of various ways in which I can maybe modify a piece of furniture or maybe build a furniture from scratch. So I came up with this idea where maybe I can just take old pieces of furniture and maybe just put something of my own into it, maybe paint it or modify it in a unique way and call it my own. So with that thought in mind, I decided to modify this really simple and old coffee table that I had in my house. I have something really special planned for that coffee table. I want something really unique and something that I haven't seen anywhere else. I was inspired by the designs of stones and maybe fossils, stone carving. I don't know how I'm going to achieve this, but this is going to be an interesting learning curve for me as well. So stay tuned and I'm going to be showing you various techniques through this coffee table modification that you can use to maybe modify and paint your own furniture. So let's get started. So this is the coffee table I'm going to modify. It's a black coffee table and I had painted a mandala design on it before. The very first thing that I did to the coffee table was to sand it. It provides a nice surface to paint on. Without sanding, the paint won't stick on the plain shiny surface. Then I took out all the hardwares and legs of the coffee table and I cleaned it. That the coffee table was ready to be painted on, I applied a generous amount of clear textured gesso. The gesso is an important step because it will act as a primer and will allow the paint to stick on the surface. I made sure to apply an even coat of gesso on the top of the table as well as the sides. And then I used polyfiller from Lepage company that I got from my nearest Home Depot. It's generally used to provide texture on the walls. So I thought maybe I can use this to provide some texture on the table surface as well. I first used a plastic spatula to evenly spread that polyfiller all over the table. And then I used a sponge to dab it on the polyfiller and provide it a rough texture. And then I used this spatula-like thing that I got from Home Depot. It's a kind of a metal spatula. I don't know what they call it, but I used this to give that polyfiller a stone-like surface. Once the polyfiller dried, I used a sanding block and sanded the entire surface to make it even. Next, I decided to design my own stencil and I was really inspired by this flying fish design, so I drew it on an app called Sketchbook, and then I used the Cricut Design Space Studio to use that design and make my own stencil. Here I'm just adjusting the design according to the size I want for my stencil, and then I used my Cricut Maker 3 machine to cut that stencil for me. I used this thick plastic sheet to create my stencil. It's called Mylar and I got it from Amazon. This material is flexible enough to be used on different kinds of surfaces, yet it's stiff enough to be used again and again. It makes a really nice and durable stencil. After sanding and making sure that the surface is plain enough, I use the stencil to create that flying fish design on the table surface. I secured my stencil using painter's tape and stuck it at all the 3 corners. For my stencil design, I needed a compound smoother than the polyfiller that I used earlier. So I used this caulking to fill in between the stencil design, and I think that material worked really well because it was really smooth to be spread evenly and easily between all these spaces in the stencil. After spreading the caulking evenly all over the stencil, I lifted the stencil up and voila, the design was there. I used a similar technique on the opposite side of that design to create another flying fish design. And this is how the entire design turned out. I was already loving it. And now it was my favorite time, which is to color this design. So I used this chalk paint in charcoal color, and I used a special bristle brush to apply chalk paint on uneven surfaces, and I started applying that color all over the surface. I thinned out the color with water wherever it was needed so that it may give an appearance of a more grayish tone. I wanted the shades of this color to be as close to a gray stone, and that's what I was trying to do while coloring the surface. So I colored the entire surface in different tones of light gray, and I made sure to color the side of the table as well. Then I rubbed a piece of sponge on that flying fish design just to take off some color from that surface and make it appear a bit lighter or close to white. I wanted to give this table the look of an old stone, a fossil. So I also decided to add some green color to represent that old algae. I was skeptic about it at first, but as I started adding it, I started liking it. And then I kept coming back and forth with different shades of green, grey and white to make it look as close to an old stone as possible. And then I decided that I want the flying fish design to stand out and I want them to be darker in color. So I dabbed them with sponge using more charcoal color, and then I refined the area all around them. And then I used the same technique with sponge and some charcoal color to lay all over the surface so that the whole design may look more homogenic. I loved how after darkening the entire surface, all the colors underneath blended together in a more homogeneous way. And this is how they turned out after the painting was completed. But that wasn't enough, and I also needed to secure the surface with a top coat. So I used a satin finish top coat and applied it evenly all over the surface using a bristle brush. My next step in this process was to provide a bit of a shine, just like how you see on the surface of a stone. So I used this tinted wax to do that job. I used a similar dense round bristle brush to apply the wax on the surface evenly. I used a tinted wax over a clear wax because the tinted wax will not only provide shine to the surface but will also give an aged look to the entire stone. It will provide that little bit of brown tint that is needed on the surface. Just the right amount of brown tint that I wanted for the stone to look old and fossil-like. And after applying the wax, I came back with this polishing cloth and I started buffing wherever I had applied that wax earlier. And the results were amazing. The surface exactly shined like a carved stone. I loved this process so much that I decided to put it on the entire stone as much as possible, and I buffed the entire stone like crazy. I wanted the flying fish design to stand out and shine as much as possible. So I used my handheld Dremel machine with this buffing attachment, and I buffed the entire design using that tool as lightly as possible. And it worked like magic. That flying fish design was shining like crazy. So I kept coming back and forth with the wax and that buffing cloth, and I tried to make the surface look as close to a stone as possible. And here's the final reveal. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe my vision came true. I love it so much. I painted the legs of the table in black color so that they may match better to the table, and I absolutely adored it. It looks exactly like an old stone, like a fossil. And that flying fish design, oh my god, it turned exactly like how I wanted it to be. And I decorated this table with one of the terrariums that I made earlier, and it looked so cute. It matched perfectly with this coffee table. Oh my god, it turned out so much better than I expected. I love it so much. Gosh, honestly, I was so nervous before starting this modification because I have never done this before, and this was the very first time that I was modifying the furniture. And oh my god, it actually looks like a carved stone, like a fossil. And I totally love this flying fish design. I totally love this motif, and oh my god, the insane amount of techniques that I got to learn. I designed my own stencil. I am definitely gonna do this again in future. Let me know what kind of furniture would you want me to modify in future. So that was it for today, guys. I am in love with this coffee table. I can't stop staring at it. So shiny, so smooth, and perfect color. Well, thank you so very much for watching this video, and I hope that you like watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you may get notified about more such future videos. Please like this video and share this with your friends. And as I always say, we are gonna make this world beautiful, one thing at a time. So I'll see you guys in future. Thank you so much. Bye.